Check my phone. What did you call me for? What? I know. Yeah. What? What? You told me you don't want to eat. You told me you wanted a sandwich. What? Don't call my phone. I'm going to give you another phone to call because when you call me, my internet goes disconnects. And I'm playing my game online. So. Yeah, my aunt called me. What the hell is this? I'm not even doing a mission. Wow. Okay, so my aunt called me to ask me if there was food downstairs on the table, and I said yeah. Then she says, why didn't you ask me? I mean, why didn't you tell me? And I told her because you told me to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich. You know? You told me you didn't feel like eating anything else. I guess it was for her son, because she's telling her son to go down and eat. He's autistic, you know, he's not normal. He can't really talk. He's 33, 34 years old, but his mind is like a 5-year-old, you know. Yeah, so I was saying to the other guy, I became an Eagles fan. Before we went to that Super Bowl, it felt like I was a fan of theirs for like 10 years because of how like, I felt like I was an Eagles fan for, like, my passion was already there. It felt like when I look back and I look at how passionate, you know, certain fans are, like, I just became a fan in 2003, and I was probably only a fan for less than a year. And I had other friends that were Eagles fans, passionate Eagles fans, and I guess it was the history of us never winning a Super Bowl and watching us play and having a great season, and you know, just learning that the Eagles, you know, didn't get past the NFC Championship 4 years in a row, and we finally get to the Super Bowl. And it was like, knowing the history at the time, it felt like I was already a fan for, like, you know, it felt like I was a fan for like 20, 30 years, you know. It's weird. It's weird. It's really weird looking at it now. Because I was so passionate, honestly, at that time. It's weird. Okay. Oh, no. What? How did that happen? Brendan Brooks. Oh, yeah, he got injured last season. Yeah, I remember late last season. We had Lane Johnson, Brendan Brooks. Usually he only had like anxiety problems or something. I think he didn't have like normal injuries. He would just miss games because of having anxiety. He just got on here. Wait, what? He just got on her yesterday. On here yesterday. What do you want to do, Dutch? You want to what are we doing? Racing? If you say I'm old, prove it. Easy. Oh, okay. injured. Yeah. Oh, he just got injured yesterday. Jeez. Torn Achilles. I mean, I know some players are training and stuff, but I don't know. I mean, we already had to worry about it. We already had to worry about left guard, you know, and I always told people, you know, people always said Brendan Brooks, like, I always tell people, like, what about Brendan Brooks? You know, he has that anxiety, you know, problem where he misses games, you know, and people forget about that. And he's been pretty good, but I don't know. He's an inspiration to a lot of people. So, damn, losing him now. I mean, sometimes whenever we lose players on the offensive line, yeah, it's easy in Madden when you lose. I'm not gonna say it's really easy, but in Madden, you can do certain things to help your offensive line. You know, you could chip guys, you could keep more guys to block. And I used to wonder, like, because, you know, a lot of teams in Madden, you know, very, very rarely will there be teams that have, like, a great offensive line across the board. And sometimes the Eagles didn't have that. Sometimes we would be down, like, one or two players, you know, they would be injured, or we would have years where we didn't have, you know, a full, like, gray offensive line. Yeah. So I would try to figure out, like, what's the most important? Are the tackles the most important, or is the interior line the most important? And I would always say, like, the tackles are the most important. You know? But it's tough for a scheme, you know, for, you know, team scheme. You really need to have the interior offensive line too in the running game, and you know, some passing plays, because they got to pull and block. And sometimes it sounds easier to just say, like, oh, we can just plug anybody in there, you know, in the offensive line, and then we can just use our running backs and tight ends to block. But, you know, it's not as easy as it is. And Brendan Brooks, I believe, people were on Facebook, you know how if you're an Eagles, if you're a member of a Facebook group, you know, of the Eagles, you know how fans like to post stuff about player stats and how Pro Football Focus has us, you know, has players ranked. I don't know if you know who that is, but he said to bring back Jason Peters and put him in his spot. I don't know if you know who that is, but he said to bring back Jason Peters and put him in his spot. Ah, okay. Do you mean like a sports writer, or yeah. All right, I got the sandwich now. I'll eat later. Yeah. So it's probably a sports writer, right? Obviously, because usually the team doesn't talk about stuff like that. But yeah, I was a fan when people were talking about putting Jason Peters at left guard and have Andre Dillard play left tackle. You know, they moved Andre Dillard to right tackle. Now, Wolf probably doesn't know what we're talking about. You know, I don't know if he does. That's weird. Both of you guys are both called, you know, both your names are similar. He's not professional, but they put everything on the ESPN app. He's not professional. Okay. Yeah, so maybe it's a Philly sports writer or analyst. I wonder if that's, what's his name? I love, what's his name? Dan, he played for the Lions. He was a quarterback for the Lions. Dan Orlovsky. I love that guy. No homo. Yeah, we're talking about a player that's injured on the Eagles, football team. He just told me that one of our big key players are injured. Yeah, I feel for Brandon Brooks, because he's an elite player. Not only that, he has, he suffers anxiety, and he's like the only one I ever heard that, had an anxiety disorder. Now, a lot of people have that, but it seemed like he was the only one in the news for it. Look him up on YouTube. He just posted a video a couple minutes ago. Okay. Check it out. Did I miss something? Did I miss something to stream? Yeah. My girlfriend just said, did I miss something because the stream went out? Let me see. She's probably here now, because I doubt there's 3 people that are staying on this live stream. I'm sure it's just you 2 wolves out here. Wow, this game is beautiful. Let's see, 8:57. Okay, so she messaged me a little over, like almost an hour ago, so she's probably here. Yeah, baby, my aunt called me, so the internet went out. So I lost the live stream. Too bad YouTube doesn't just like notify you why the live stream ended, I'm using one of my old phones, because you can't have 2 internet connections at the same time. So I'm using one phone to text my girlfriend and one phone to do this live stream. Can you close the door? Yeah, I'm doing this live stream with my phone's internet because I wouldn't even be able to live stream with my home internet. So, not too many people call this phone my current phone, but I'm still taking a risk doing the live stream, and it did end because my aunt called me for something. I told her I'm going to give her another phone number. I use a free phone app on my other phone for free texting and calling and texting. Let's see. So I guess I'll just search Brandon Brooks. Maybe that guy will pop up. Brandon Brooks. Wow. EDP just called Brandon Brooks a pussy. Are you serious? That guy, I subscribed to EDP, and that lasted about a couple days, because fucking EDP's a fucking pussy. He's an asshole. He would make a really great Cowboys fan. I'm gonna go on his video right now and tell him that.
So Brandon Brooks.
I'm gonna say, just came here to say you make a really good Cowboys fan. Eagles fans hate that shit. I fucking hate EDP. Listen, he might be a fan. He might be a you know, he might be an Eagles fan for like 20, 30 years. But listen, it doesn't mean you're a bigger fan than me or you know more about the Eagles than me. You might know more Eagles players' names. You might know a little more. It wasn't until like maybe 5 years ago where I really got into watching football, where I really dissected every little part of the game. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until maybe 2, 3 years ago where I would watch a lot of games over and over again. So I feel like, yeah, you could be a fan for 20, 30 years, but if you're just coasting and just you know and shit like that, because I mean, what was it? What was it? The year that we won the Super Bowl, or the year before that? I think it was the year we won the Super Bowl. Before the year started, he said we were gonna go like 4-12, and that's ridiculous. That really pissed me off. And he gets so damn emotional. Okay, Brandon Brooks. Like there are fans that just watch the game. You know, I'm not gonna say he's like a woman that watches football, because there are women that really are really into it. But there are fans that will just watch it and just support a team. I mean, he's somebody that's been to a lot of Eagles games and he's passionate, but I mean, he could just be one of those people that seem to have maybe he has enough money to go see football games. Maybe he invests in that, and he's emotional, you know. But I feel like there are some Eagles fans. I feel that there are some football fans in general that okay. I feel like there are some football fans in general, sports fans in general, that just watch the game just for fun, just because it's entertaining, and just to have a team to root for. But when it comes to me, I watch the game like I'm a scout, like I'm a coach. I watch the game, I dissect like every game. You know what I mean? I go into a game and I'll tell you, like, people get on Carson Wentz, but there are like, you don't know how many negative plays, how many bad plays there are. When you go back and watch, there are playlists of Carson Wentz games. There's a playlist called Every Throw of Carson Wentz in 2018, 2019. You go back and you watch those games where every play is just a passing play. And you will see how the offensive line blocks. You will see how these guys don't look like they're trying. You'll see how these guys drop the ball. How they don't get where they're supposed to be. There's like this, it just looks like shit. Like, it looks like garbage. So I don't want to completely bash EDP, as an Eagles fan, but I honestly feel like he's the majority. He's like a common sports fan, Now, I got the idea for watching games over 2, 3 times because I started watching preseason games, And I thought about doing it with preseason games, and then I started doing it like a couple years ago with regular season games, because I love watching preseason games and watching like the hopefuls, you know, try to make the team and stuff like that. So I try to, I root for certain players, and I try to see how they do. So all of a sudden I thought, you know what? There'll be times where there was nothing on TV, so I'll say I'm going to watch this game over again, and I'm going to, instead of watching it like just for fun, just as entertainment, I'm going to watch it like a coach or a scout. I'm going to actually watch every play, and I would literally rewind each play like 4 or 5 times, maybe even more, and look at every position on the field. Like look at the offensive line. Did every player on the offensive line do their job? Did the running back do their job? How were the wide receivers? What kind of routes were ran on the field? Was it a good play? Was it a good offensive play versus, to go against the defense? Then I start to look at the stats on third down. I start to look at what we did inside the red zone, what we did in the goal line, and I start to, really dissect stuff, And I always say it comes down to coaching, because the game is made of situations, and, it's down to the players to execute, but the coaches, it's up to the coaches to get a team ready, prepare them, give them the game plan, and make adjustments during the game. So the coach, it's tough to compare. I would say a coach is kind of like the leader of a war. It's really tough to compare it to, because I don't want to just call a coach a teacher, because a coach is much more than that. But a coach, if I was a coach, yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was just going to say, if I was a coach, you see the pregame stuff where coaches pat players on the back and, talk to them before the game and stuff like that. If I was a coach, I would bring out the best in them. I would talk about the shit that goes on, the bad stuff that's talked about them, and I would try to fire them up before every game. I would say, you know what, you might be a second or third string player, but we really need you, and I, really make them feel, part of the team, and really make them feel, like they can help us win, because I don't know exactly how it goes down. Just like some players don't do, everything they're supposed to. Some players don't watch film enough. Coaches might, be, lazy when it comes to certain things. You have coaches that are great motivators. You have coaches that are, offensive geniuses, defensive masterminds, stuff like that. But I guess if I was a coach, I would be, an all-around coach, if I was able to have, the background in the offense or defense. But I would definitely be a motivator, Like, I want my team to, I want my team to, I want them to be sharks in the water, you know what I mean? I want them to be willing to die. I want, the shit you hear in a UFC fight or boxing fight, shit like they say they're willing to die. Like, there's certain things you could tell people to motivate them. And I just thought about it because, some people will tell you, like, some coaches would probably say, like, it's not my job to motivate the players, or, these players get paid to do their job, so it's not my job to motivate them. But if it was me, Yeah, I wouldn't care about that. I would light a fire under each player's ass. I would take them to a secret room and talk to them, away from the team or in front of the team. You know, I would most likely do it one-on-one, but you know, I just felt that way. Like one day I was thinking about it. You know, if I was a coach, I just thought about that. It was like maybe a few months ago. I was bored, and whenever I'm bored, I sometimes think of the most amazing. 10-6, yeah. I think the majority of people think we're going 10-6, but I honestly, when you look at what we did, and you look at the division with all the teams hiring new coaches, and you know, the fact that we're still, you know, recovering from the coronavirus. Pretty much, we're the team that we're the only team in the division that's really prepared. You know, really capable of, you know, having a good start. You know, the Giants still aren't there talent-wise. You know, in my opinion, the Cowboys have a new coach. They have a, you know, quarterback situation with Dak. The Redskins are the Redskins. And to go about what the Eagles did, we improved every single area of our team. And, you know, the Cowboys upgraded most of their team through their draft, where we upgraded most of our defense through free agency. You know, you look at the areas where we struggled, the areas that, you know, pretty much was our Achilles heel. The secondary, we improved the secondary. You know, if it wasn't for the secondary last year, we would probably, I always say this, people think I'm crazy, but we lost like 5-6 games because of our secondary. And 5-6 games puts us in, you know, 15-1 or 14-2. Now, we would still be a bad 15-1, 14-2 team, but, you know, we were in so many close games, and when you think about being in so many close games and getting these, you know, players in free agency and the draft and improving our team, you know, no longer are we going to have slow starts on offense. We shouldn't have that. No longer are we going to get roasted by wide receivers or, you know, give the quarterback so much time. Yeah, Darius Slay. That's a tough one. Darius Slay. I'm kind of. I loved it, but then I went to watch highlights, and there were certain guys that gave him problems. Like, you know, obviously he shot down Amari Cooper. You know, and that's great because we're gonna face him twice a year. And but he would get beat by, who was it? Keenan Allen from the Chargers. Who was it? Number 13. I forgot what team he played for. I think it was, or was it the Lions? No, he played for the Lions. No, it was the Chargers. Yeah, it was the Lions versus Chargers. And he struggled with him. He struggled with Stephon Diggs. He did all right with Stephon Diggs, but the fact that he struggled with like really like elite route runners like Keenan Allen, that made me kind of think like, you know, what's going to happen. And then he had an injury, I think last year or the year before, at the end of 2 years ago. All right, Wolf North. I'll look out for that. Okay. My favorite move was, what's his name? Can't believe I can't remember his name. There's just sometimes during the day where I live stream, play too long, I can't remember certain things. That defensive tackle, that nose tackle. Damn it. Hargrave. Javon Hargrave. He's gonna make that defensive line better. He's gonna make the DNs better. You know, give up big plays. You know, and the great thing about him too is that he can actually catch a football, which we struggle with doing in the secondary. And he's a playmaker in the secondary. So, getting maybe at least 2 interceptions, you know. I don't think he's great after the run. You know, if he's got room, if he's got space to run, you know, he's not like an agile guy or like a good returner after, you know, after he gets the ball. But, you know, so it's Javon Hargrave's my favorite guy. What else? Just the speed that we added at wide receiver. You look at the 2 areas that we improved that, you know, played that pretty much caused us to lose football games. The wide receiver position and the cornerback position. And just adding Darius Slay not only gave you a number 1 guy, an outside guy. Okay, yeah. But getting a number 1 guy makes the depth better. All of a sudden, you know, like, you don't have Jalen Mills be the number 1 guy. You don't have Sidney Jones be the number 1 guy. They can be the number 2. Now, there's guys that could win the number 2 job, like Williams. Yeah. It seemed like I was the only one after the 2016 season where I don't like to give up on players after 1 year, you know, and everybody just like gave up on him, and then he had an okay year, because people think that 2017, everybody always says 2017 our wide receivers were great, but if you watch those games, I was always screaming at the TV, why is Alshon Jeffrey only getting 2-3 targets? Why does he only have 2-3 catches? Why? Like, it seemed like everybody disappeared in that year too. I'm screaming at the TV, like, it seemed like the only times people were making plays, Alshon Jeffrey, you know, he was known for catching 50-50 balls. He was known for getting catches way down the field. And I probably could count on one hand how many times he caught the ball, like, deep downfield, like a 50-50 ball, his whole career with us. I could, you know, and I look back at the stats in 2017, and Alshon Jeffrey averaged 3-4 catches a game, you know. Aguilar averaged the same thing. Torrey Smith only had 30 catches the whole year. He was pretty much just a deep threat. So then everybody talks about 2017 being, and but when you actually look at the stats, I told people, I show people stats. Both Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar had 13 games of less than 60 yards. Now, that's pretty bad. Now, in those 13 games, there are a lot of games where they had less than 30 yards a game. And then I look at how many 100-yard games Alshon Jeffrey had. He only had 3, and I believe all those 3 came at the end of 2018. You know. So, yeah, I go back to, you know, these Cowboys fans are just delusional. They're delusional. They, you know, they're either scared or they're delusional. They're in denial that they had a better off season than us. Now, when you talk about Yeah, the Cowboys got CeeDee Lamb, but they improved a strength on their team where we improved weaknesses. You know, we improved areas on our team that caused us to lose football games, like really badly. I mean, it was because of the wide receiver position that Carson Wentz is being made a mockery. I mean, he's you know, then they call him injury prone. Now, to me, he's not injury prone. I always have to tell people this. You know, he played his whole rookie season. He played up to week 13 in 2017, which was, by the way, an MVP type season. He gets hurt week 13, which was a freak play that would probably never happen again to him. Will never happen again. Then they rush him back week 3, where I was worried about it. I was like, I want Carson Wentz to play. I really want him to play, just for the hell of it, but don't do it. Don't do it. And then I kept hearing, like, during training camp, once it started to get in the preseason, and once the season started, getting close, and then it was like week 2, and then they announced that they were going to play Carson Wentz, and all the analysts, sports analysts, are saying you're making a big mistake, because they said Aaron Rodgers had a similar injury and it took him a year to recover, and you're bringing him back week 3, which was probably, let me think, so week 3 would probably be in September, October. Week 3 is probably October, and week 13 was probably December. Okay, so maybe 10 months, but still, people were saying like he shouldn't have been rushed back week 3, and so he was rushed back week 3. It wasn't until like late in the season where they benched him because they found a back fracture. Yeah, Philly 500. He's one of my. He's a good friend of mine, and I don't know him personally, but I'm a subscriber, and I always don't catch his live streams, or very rarely do I catch them. But yeah, so week 3 he late in the season he gets benched because they found out he had a back fracture or whatever, and then he plays the full season in 2019. He doesn't get hurt until the playoffs in 2020, where it was a dirty hit. Now, people want to say it wasn't a dirty hit, it was a fair hit. Carson Wentz was already sliding and was touched down by another Texans player. I mean, Seahawks player. And then, Clowney targets the back of his head. I mean, you could clearly see he targets the head area. He could have like touched him down. He could have targeted his back, his legs. He could have did anything else. So all of a sudden, Wentz is injury prone. We're going to talk about, in my opinion, he really only had one injury. Because they rushed him back, there's all these jokes online with him being in a wheelchair, with him having a permanent, handicap spot when he goes to park his car or whatever, That shit would just piss me off. And then they call me like, they tell me I love Carson Wentz or I'm biased. It's like, if you truly look at it, he's just a victim of, it's just unfortunate what happened. If you take away one of those seasons, if you take away the dirty hit, he's not injury prone. If you take away them rushing him early, he's not injury prone. Before that illegal hit, there was nobody talking about him being injury prone. All of a sudden, he gets hit, an illegal hit, and he's injury prone. Like, how do you count that as an actual injury? He was sliding. And people were telling me, well, he didn't slide the right way. Really? they want to blame him for sliding a certain way. I mean, how else do you want to slide? I tell him he was hit from behind. It doesn't matter how he slid. He was hit from behind. If he was hit coming, if he was hit coming right at him, like forward, I could understand that. But he was hit from behind. How do you want him to slide to get away from that? Like, he doesn't have eyes in the back of his head. So it just drives me insane. And then it's the whole Nick Foles, Carson Wentz debate. It took me until probably, I don't know how long it took me, but I was upset with the Eagles for them trading Nick Foles. I was so pissed off because I was like, here we go again. They trade another franchise quarterback. They traded McNabb, who was the reason for me becoming an Eagles fan in 2003. Now they trade Nick Foles, another franchise quarterback. You know. And I just love the guy. I don't know why. I don't know what it was. I just love the guy. I don't know. He just looks like, you know, even before, I always say, before he won the Super Bowl, when he signed with us again, I felt like I was jumping for joy on the inside. I felt like a little kid on Christmas. You know, it was like the greatest thing ever. And I said I was going to watch every single preseason game he plays. I didn't think he was going to take over and win a Super Bowl for us. You know. But when he did, I feel like it was redemption, even though it wasn't me. And redemption is only for those people who have been wronged. So it was redemption for Nick Foles, but I felt like it was redemption for me. And at the time, I was like, oh shit, yeah, Carson Wentz wasn't the first to do it, but I was so happy for Nick Foles. And I felt like I was even happier than Nick himself, because I'm watching him hold the trophy, and he's just like, I don't know if he was just in shock or what. And I just felt like I was even happier than him. So, like, people want to say I'm a Nick Foles hater, but I watched the Super Bowl over like probably 4 times. But it wasn't until I went on Facebook the last 2 years and everybody's having the Foles-Wentz debate, saying how Foles is way better. He's better under pressure. He's better in the clutch moments. He, you know, actually played playoff games. Like, geez, like, you Eagles fans, you just, you know, it feels like, I don't know. It's a strange thing. The fan base is really strange. Now then there's people saying, how could you treat Nick Foles that way? How could you trade him away? I mean, we built a statue for him. Come on. Part of me feels like we shouldn't have built a statue, and, you know, the bigger part of me feels like we should have. But we built a statue for him, and we had him one more year with us. So, come on, that's enough. You know, we can't have 2 quarterbacks, and you can't just, you know, give up on your future quarterback and expect to just, that would be like letting go of Michael Jordan and taking, like, you know, keeping somebody else, you know. Not saying Carson Wentz is Michael Jordan, but he's a, you know, the better quarterback, the best player on the team. It'd be like taking, like, you know, you don't know how many years Nick Foles has left, and you're willing to, you know, you'd be crazy to give up on, you know, a guy like Carson Wentz, who's, like, just entering his prime. At the time, he wasn't even in his prime, and you're thinking about giving up on him because a guy won a Super Bowl for you? Like I keep saying, Nick Foles can't run. When I say this, people just get on me. I tell people Nick Foles can't run a normal NFL offense. Every time I've seen them, you know, not use the RPO, he struggles. You know, the 27-2 season, he had Chip Kelly. they ran the RPO. You know, at the time I was like everybody else. I was hyped up, and I was riding the train, and I said, "This is the guy. This is the franchise guy." It wasn't until we went to the Super Bowl that it came out in the news that Chip Kelly, that Doug Peterson is using what helped Nick Foles in the 27-2 season in 2013 or wherever it was. And I was like, yeah, I go back and I watch Nick Foles games and I see him struggle when they don't use the RPO. When the running game isn't working, he struggles. He's like Eli Manning under pressure. NFL is going to get NFL or be close to it. Wentz is going to get NFL or be close to it. What is it? What are you trying to say? Wentz is going to... Are you saying he's going to get out of the NFL? Oh, okay, yeah. When you look at the improvements we made, I don't just look at it that he finally has some pieces on offense. I look at the total picture. I look at the defense being better, with the Eagles getting more possessions on offense, better field position, And not only that, I said the best thing we've done this offseason is Doug Peterson didn't hire an offensive coordinator. He actually hired different roles on offense. He hired Marty Morningwig. He hired who was it? Was that one guy? He hired another guy that was like an assistant for. He's like a great offensive mind. He was an assistant for that wide receivers coach, I believe. I forgot his name. Whatever. We hired those two guys. So we hire a lot of people to have offensive, roles on the team. Input on offense. Well, you don't get that when you hire an offensive coordinator. And at first, I was with everybody else. I was like, this is strange. He's not hiring an offensive coordinator. And then I thought about it. And I thought about what we had in 2017. We had like 4 offensive-minded coaches on the team. And I think about the struggles we had in 2018, 2019 with the offense, the play calling, the way we used our wide receivers. You had a wide receiver coach turned offensive coordinator. And we were calling for his head probably, week 5 or something. And we were calling for him to get fired in 2018. I remember watching live streams with Philly 500. And I made a funny comment when we played the Giants in 2018. And the Eagles were starting to run the ball. And we ended up winning the game because we ran the ball like 30 times. And I was saying, we finally caught fire. It's like we discovered fire for the first time. And I made Philly 500 laugh. I made him laugh his ass off. And seriously, it was so frustrating on offense the last 2 years. So when you look at the wide receivers we got, not just in the draft, but like what we have, people want to give up on Ortega-Whiteside, but he had an injury too last year. And we also didn't use him the right way. Because he was known for, getting touchdowns in the red zone. He was known for also getting 50-50 balls. So I understand why we drafted him, I honestly believe like we should have went after like Hollywood Brown. over Ortega-Whiteside because we already had Alshon Jeffrey. Maybe it was a situation where they wanted, yeah, they did want to part ways with Alshon Jeffrey. So they probably drafted Ortega-Whiteside to replace him in the future. So that's probably why we drafted him, because I don't see why we would keep two 50-50 guys, on the outside, or slower guys on the outside, I mean, they are big play guys in a different way, but Carson Wentz doesn't fit that type. Those wide receivers don't fit Carson Wentz. And see, so when you talk about there being a lot of offensive input now from a lot of different coaches on offense, including Doug Peterson, and then you look at the offensive weapons we have now, including the tight ends, Miles Sanders, even with the offensive line being where it is now after Brandon Brooks' injury, it's a lot. It is night and day. It's just, I can't. Usually it would take a team a few years to do what we did this off season. It would take a team a few years to do what we did, and we did that all in one season, one off season. It's going to be really hard for these wide receivers, in my opinion, to be busts, because these guys were steals. Hightower and Quez Watkins, they are steals. I mean, Quez Watkins is, I don't know, 6'1", 6'2", runs a 4.3. He's a decent route runner. He can also high point the ball too. And then Hightower's more a possession guy. Is a 4.4 guy. He reminds me the most of Stephon Diggs. Maybe Quez Watkins is like a better version of Mike Wallace. I don't know. I can't really compare him to anybody. He's the one guy I can't compare to anybody. Then you have Deshaun Jackson, and hopefully Marquise Goodwin, stays healthy. This is really exciting. I keep telling people this reminds me of the Super Bowl season. I remember watching a video before the 2017 season. I remember watching John Jaworski talk about, he was interviewed at the end of 2016 season. He was interviewed, and I guess he was asked about the Eagles. There was a question they asked him, and he said that he thinks the Eagles might win the Super Bowl in the next 2 years, or something like that. And he talked about like the improvements the team was making and everything, and how Carson Wentz, how he felt Carson Wentz he's going to be a big guy. He was going to be a star, and he was going to get better year 2. And I felt that excitement in the off season. And I'll never forget that interview he had, before the 2017 season, because we did win the Super Bowl the next year. All right, baby. I'm gonna get off now. I'm gonna stop the live stream here. It's getting late. It's 10 o'clock already. It's 10 o'clock. Alright, so hopefully this was a good live stream. I'm gonna watch it over again. Alright, see you, man. Alright, I'm out.